Welcome to a December afternoon at Lincoln Financial Field as the Eagles are back at home and welcoming the New Orleans Saints. And in a year where so little has gone as planned, an empty stadium not likely in the plan of rookie quarterback Jalen Hurts for his NFL starting debut. Hurts getting the starting nod today as Philadelphia looks to spark an offense that has also not gone quite according to plan. Here's your weather report from our friends at NBC 10. A warm one for December, mid to high 50s for this Sunday afternoon. And of course, as always, glad to have you with us here on the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Amy Campbell along with Fran Duffy. And Fran, the rookie quarterback, gets the start today. And talk about welcome to the NFL. He gets the 10-2 Saints and the league's top defense for his debut.
Making your first start in the NFL is always tough. There's always going to be ups and downs, but when you're going up against a defense like the Saints, it's even tougher. So expect a little bit of a roller coaster from Jalen Hurts today, but we'll see if he can provide a little bit of that spark that Doug Peterson mentioned numerous times this week.
All eyes will be on Philadelphia and on this Eagles offense today. We'll send it back over to Lincoln Financial Field as the players get ready for this one. The warm-ups courtesy of our friends at PA Lottery. And look, you talk about that spark. That was the theme reiterated by coaches and players. Doug Peterson saying on Tuesday when he talked about making this change to this quarterback change for this week. We're not where we want to be as an offense. I looked at the whole thing and decided that for this week, to look for that spark again, to try to get the team over the hump. Wouldn't comment on what that means for the rest of the season, but we are going to see Jalen Hurts today making his debut as a starter. We saw him last week against Green Bay come in the third quarter, do some nice things in that Eagles loss at Lambeau Field. What did you see from him and what are you looking to see today?
Well, I saw basically what I expected. You know, I think when you watch Jalen Hurts in college and you watch him so far in the NFL, you were expecting to see a guy that would try and create some things with his legs, and he was able to rush for a couple of first downs. He was able to extend some plays outside the pocket and make some throws on the run. We saw that on that touchdown throw to Greg Ward, but he does need to get better in some certain areas. You'd like to see him execute a little bit better from the pocket, have a better feel of getting to his second and third read in the progression, but that's par for the course anytime you see a rookie quarterback. So, you know, that's kind of the dance you've got to play when you've got one of those guys in there in the starting lineup. That's what the Eagles have today. So you're going to see some good. We're going to see some bad. I'm interested to see ultimately how he comes out in his first start, though. And then the second part of that, Amy, too, I'm interested to see what the game plan looks like here for the Eagles. What will the strategy be with trying to attack this New Orleans Saints defense? Will we see a lot of things that Jalen Hurts is accustomed to running during his days at Alabama and Oklahoma? I'm very anxious to see what the game plan is here today.
Well, and the team reiterating this week that whoever is out there at quarterback, they want to win. They're going to support whoever it is, and they're happy for Jalen, and they feel for Carson. So everybody with this message of unity as they move forward. Let's take a look at the offensive starters here for the Eagles, and I feel like I say this every week. It's almost become normal, but it should not be normal. Another offensive line combination, 12 combos in 13 games as Jason Peter elects for season-ending surgery after battling a toe injury for much of the season. Nate Herbig will start at right guard, the rookie Jack Driscoll at right tackle. Not the offensive line we were expecting at the beginning of the season. A lot of young guys in there, Fran, and another challenge for them against a really good defense.
Yeah, the only thing that's been consistent has been the lack of continuity along the offensive line, right? I mean, as you mentioned, 12 of 13 games with different starting combinations. I think going up against this Saints defense, that will be a challenge. I'll get to that a little bit later in the show as to why. But ultimately, look, it's going to be all about trying to keep Jalen Hurts in his comfort zone. Do not get into third and longs. You could say that about every single time you take the field as an offense, but especially with a rookie making his first start, you want to try and make life as easy as possible. So it will be a big execution day for this Eagles offense, that's for sure.
Let's look at the defensive starters here for the Eagles, and plenty of things to note here as well. But let's first start off with Rodney McLeod, the team's nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. A huge honor, well-deserving. We're going to hear a little bit more from Rodney later in the show in the one-on-one interview with Mike Quick. But let's talk about his matchup today and the matchup for the Eagles secondary, Fran, against a really powerful Saints offense.
Yeah, you've got a lot of guys in the passing game that you've got to try and contend with, namely Michael Thomas, who will work inside and outside. Emmanuel Sanders, a proven deep threat in this league. They've got some young guys as well, Traquan Smith, most notably at the receiver core. They've got a veteran field stretcher in Jared Cook at tight end. And then one of the most dynamic playmakers in the NFL in Alvin Kamara with Latavius Murray banging between the tackles. So it's a very well-diversified offensive attack. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. Taysom Hill is really coming along as a passer. This will be his 4th start, and they've entrusted him with executing the offense. It is not going to just be him running around out there and trying to pick up plays with his legs. He is going to throw the football. We saw that last week against Atlanta. It was his 3rd start, and they really kind of opened the playbook up for him a little bit. It's going to be a big challenge here for this Eagles defense because, as I said, they are fine trying to play any kind of game you want to play. If they want to run the football, they're going to try and run it. They've got one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. If they want to throw it, well, they'll drop back and throw it 30-plus times as well. So the Eagles have got to be ready for whatever New Orleans throws their way here this afternoon.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Taysom Hill and his game. You mentioned now this is his 4th game starting. Really, a big storyline across this game is quarterbacks without a ton of experience. Taysom Hill also not too experienced as the starter, though he has been in the league for several years. Really, he's known as the guy who gets it done with his legs. In the 3 games he started, he's 3-0, so 3 wins. 2 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns. In those 3 games, he has rushed for 176 yards. He's completing 71.1% of his passes. And this team with him since week 11, they're averaging 200 rushing yards per game. So a lot of this is getting done on the ground, but you mentioned he is evolving and they're starting to open up the passing game a little bit more, and he's had some success there as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to 3 games ago with them, their first game with Taysom Hill as the starter was against Atlanta. He was a little bit skittish. He ran for a couple touchdowns in that game. They really did a lot to try and keep things open with his legs. But then the second game, they went up against Denver. I remember that was the game where the Broncos did not have an active quarterback on the roster that day, right? So they didn't have to do too much offensively to try and win that football game. It was a big ball control attack. They kind of ran the ball and sat on it much. They didn't really try and throw it all over the yard. So this third one, this past week, once again against Atlanta, as I said, that offense did not look any different last week than what I'd seen from them in weeks prior with Drew Brees under center. So I think you're going to see that version of the offense today. It is not going to be just run, run, run. Taysom Hill is going to throw it as well, but I would expect, that being said, the run game is still going to be a factor. And Taysom Hill, they're going to have quarterback design runs. They're going to have read options. They're going to have all kinds of things built into this game plan this week. So, as I said, the Eagles, a lot to prepare for here defensively in this matchup.
Well, and this is a Saints offense that is also 5th in the NFL in scoring. They're averaging 28.9 points per game. A lot of challenge for this Eagles defense. Of course, if you guys have been seeing some of those shots of the cleats, this is the Eagles' My Cause, My Cleats, the NFL's initiative to bring some causes that are important to the players in. These are some really cool cleats. A lot of players repping the Eagles Autism Challenge as well, and the Eagles Autism Foundation. If you go on the website, there's a list of all the different causes. There's a cool video of the guys unboxing their cleats and talking about what's important to them. They were wearing them in Green Bay as well, but you'll also see them in the game today. Fran, I love this. Every year, the players get a chance to wear some really cool artwork on their shoes and also represent causes that are important to them.
Yeah, and all these guys, I mean, they've got things that are really important to them personally. So I would implore you guys to go check that video out on PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Really dives into the stories behind some of the cleats that these guys are wearing today.
Yeah, it was very impressive. It was funny. It got me a little teary. It struck every note for me. It was a really well-done video as well. All right, with that, let's move on to breaking down the Saints defense. It is statistically the best defense in the NFL. They are allowing just under 290 yards per game. That is pretty remarkable. They're 4th in the NFL in points per game allowed, allowing about 20 points. They're also tied for 4th in the turnover differential. They are +7, 19 takeaways this season. The one weakness that I could kind of point out on this defense is that they are not so great in the red zone. They are 23rd in that category. So that could be a little bit of an opportunity there for the Eagles, Fran. But is there any weakness on this defense, really?
I mean, ultimately, look, they've had some issues with trying to stay healthy at certain spots. They've been banged up in the back 7. They've been banged up front, but that's not the case today. They've got a lot of their guys back. So I think, look, this is a very good scheme. They play really fast. They play really aggressive. They play very deep. They've got 6, 7 defensive backs that they'll rotate in. They've got 7, 8 defensive linemen that they feel comfortable rolling through. At the linebacker spot, they've got 3 or 4 guys that play, and then you have Malcolm Jenkins that plays up basically as a linebacker as well in that scheme. So it is a fast group, it is an aggressive group. They're very multiple, and then they mix things up with their coverages and with their blitzes and all different kinds of things they do from a pressure standpoint. So it is an execution game for the Eagles offense. It is an assignment game for the Eagles offense. You have got to know where players are coming from a blitz standpoint, and you've got to have an idea of how to read these coverages, because as I said, they really do a nice job of mixing things up. It's a big challenge mentally and physically.
Well, and when you talk about the mental dynamics here and even the emotional dynamics here, one of the storylines this week that all the players and coaches were asked about was that they're going to be facing Malcolm Jenkins, who was a great Eagle, a Super Bowl champion, a leader in this locker room for a long time. He's now with the Saints. Jim Schwartz raved about him, saying that he is probably the smartest player he ever coached. He said, I root like crazy for him 15 games a year, but not on Sunday. How dynamic is this Saints secondary with what Malcolm's been doing there?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to talk about him as part of the secondary, because very often he is up near the line of scrimmage, almost as a linebacker next to Demario Davis. I mean, that is ultimately how he's used. He'll match up against running backs at times. My guess is he'll see plenty of one-on-one matchups with Miles Sanders in this game. He'll see some of the tight ends as well with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. But I think ultimately, look, as I said, this is a fast defense. They're really good schematically. They're going to offer a lot of challenges to this Eagles offense in a lot of different ways.
Well, and as we're looking at this offense now, we're seeing Carson Wentz warming up a little bit. And look, Doug Peterson talked a little bit earlier this week about how tough this decision was for him to say that this week Carson's going to be the backup. But he talked about going through something similar himself when he was playing for Andy Reid and how much that adversity really helped him grow. Doug said that he feels like he became a better leader, a better teammate, and that he was able to see the game through a different lens when he went through that experience. Teammates as well, especially Jason Kelce, very strongly encouraging, saying this is not the end of the Carson Wentz saga. When he came here, he absolutely transformed our offense. So I think that this is just one game. We are going to see one game here. We don't know what this means for the rest of the season, but this is certainly going to be a learning experience for a quarterback like Carson Wentz. And who better than someone like Doug Peterson, who's been through this, to say, look, this is going to be something that makes you a better player and a better person.
Yeah, I think it's going to just be, it's going to be big for everybody involved, right? I mean, you talk about Jalen Hurts getting his first start. You talk about the dynamic with Carson Wentz kind of taking that step back. It's big for everybody involved. And the next 4 weeks, they're big on a lot of different levels, right? Because the Eagles still in play, unbelievably, for this division at this point. So lots at play here with this Eagles team. And look, everybody's going to have to kind of do their part to make sure things are good moving forward, not just for 2020, but for 2021 as well.
So if you're looking at this offense matching up against, look, this Saints defense is very good. There's not a lot of weaknesses on it. Where do you think this team can really attack this defense? Do they just need to come out and assert their will on this defense, or are there certain ways that this defense can be attacked?
Well, I mean, look, this is a defense that has not given up a 100-yard rusher since the Eagles' Super Bowl year in 2017.
That's pretty
They
wild.
are very, very good against the run. That being said, you have to play into what your strengths are as an offense. You've got to do things that make Jalen Hurts feel comfortable, because that is your best avenue to try and win the game. Now, us on the outside, we don't know what makes Jalen Hurts feel comfortable, right? We can guess, we can try and project that, but the coaches know, the players know, hey, this is what Jalen feels comfortable running. That's how they're going to try and play this game. Whatever we see them do, that's what they've kind of come to an agreement and say, okay, Jalen, what makes you most comfortable? This is how we're going to try and play. So if that means he's going to be in the shotgun and empty and running around and doing all kinds of things with his legs, that's what they'll do. If that means they're going to try and line him up under center and hand the ball off to Miles Sanders 25 times, that's what they'll do. If it means he's going to be lined up in the shotgun next to Sanders and they're going to run all kinds of read option plays and RPOs and try and get him out in space and make defenders wrong, then that's what they'll do. But ultimately, it all comes back down to that one theme. What is it that makes Jalen Hurts feel comfortable? Because that is the best path to trying to win this game and have success against the Saints defense. You have got to keep the rookie comfortable and confident in his first start.
And of course, they talk about, seeing the ball go through the hoop, right? So you want to come out strong. You want to have a couple of completions, a couple of big plays, put some points on the board, and that positive energy that fuels the confidence of the players. You just want to see that ball go through the hoop, how much that provides. One thing I do want to mention, and let's flip to the other side of the ball for the Eagles real quick, and let's talk about this linebacker group, because it's going to be a tough challenge against a Saints team that is dominant on the ground. We talked about Alvin Kamara. We talked about Latavius Murray, and of course, Taysom Hill and what he does with his legs. This Eagles front, of course, is very dominant, but the linebacker group, a lot of injuries there and some new guys rotating in today. Davion Taylor to IR earlier this week. TJ Edwards out this week. The rookie Sean Bradley's getting the start along with Duke Riley and Alex Singleton. The Eagles also signed Joe Bacci off of the Saints practice squad, but because of COVID protocol, he didn't practice. He went through the Saturday walkthrough, and then Rashad Smith. So what do you think about this young group and the challenge that they're going to have today?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to deal with it from a matchup standpoint individually against Cook and Kamara in space. Kamara has not been as big of a factor through the air with Taysom Hill under center, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. Doesn't mean that they won't throw it to him now, but just something to keep an eye on here for this game. But again, it just comes down to execution. Everybody kind of doing their job with all the different misdirection things that they're going to bring to the table offensively. Defensively, you've got to just do your job, make sure that you're in the right gap, and handle your assignment.
Okay, and as we bring it back inside, we thank PA Lottery, as always, for bringing us those warm-ups. And now we check in with another member of our team, Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, standing by. And Dave, it's the biggest storyline in Philly and maybe the NFL this week, the quarterback change from Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts for today's matchup. Have you seen anything like this in recent Eagles history?
Well, certainly you go back to 2008, Donovan McNabb sits for a half, Kevin Cobb comes in, and Donovan was pissed about it, and he wouldn't let the Eagles forget it, and they came back here to Lincoln Financial Field on Thanksgiving and beat the Cardinals, and eventually went to the NFC Championship game. But something of this magnitude, no, not really. I think back to the Randall Cunningham days, and when he replaced Ron Jaworski, and then Rodney Peete came in for Randall, and oh, what a mess it was. But nothing where your franchise quarterback in his 5th season is down for at least one game. So I think it's been an extraordinary week at the NovaCare Complex. The players, as you say, have rallied around both players, and we'll see what kind of result we have today with Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position. But no doubt about it, this is potentially a franchise-altering move. There's so many ways this can go today. Don't downplay just how significant today and moving forward is. The Eagles invested a second-round draft pick in Jalen Hurts. He gets to start today, and if he plays well, we'll find out, because this is something that is just perhaps not one day. This is something that, look, if he plays really, really well, Doug Peterson kind of has no choice.
Well, Dave, obviously that's going to be a huge storyline, but what is your big storyline presented by Fox Bet here for this matchup?
Well, it's about the Eagles offense and what it looks like. You've talked about it, Fran, with Jalen, who had a lot of input in the game plan. Of course, the starting quarterback always does. And what do they use with Jalen Hurts that maybe they didn't use with Carson Wentz? We think that there'll be some more designed runs, but the fact is the Saints are going to, in my opinion, I believe they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage and dare Jalen Hurts to try to win this game with his arms. So I'd like to see if the Eagles alter things dramatically for Jalen. And I also want to see, Fran, is last week when Jalen came in the game, we saw immediately a jump in energy. We saw receivers create separation. We saw big plays from the wide receivers, one from Rager and one from Greg Ward, something we had not seen in weeks. So what does the offense look like with a quarterback who has a bit of a different skill set? Earlier in the season, Carson Wentz had some designed runs. Those have tailed off quite a bit. Now we see if the Eagles design something for Jalen Hurts to use his legs, whether that's getting the pocket moving, whether that's some designed runs. I'm interested to see this. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch in just a little while here.
Yeah, I think we're all fascinated to see what the game plan is, especially how the Eagles open the game offensively. Dave, let's get your Fox Bet key to the game.
Yeah, I'm going to say what you guys were just talking about, the Alvin Kamara and how the Eagles handle him, especially with a linebacker core that has Alex Singleton, Duke Riley, and Sean Bradley. And if anybody out there watching had those three starting in this game against the Saints in mid-December, please raise your hand. How about one of them starting in this week? So, I mean, it's an enormous task against maybe the most versatile player in the backfield in the league. He's third in the league in total yards from scrimmage coming into this week. He can, and it really depends on the game plan, used as a running back as much as a receiver, devastating player, outstanding in space. How do the Eagles deal with him much less worry about what happens behind them deep down the field with Michael Thomas, with Jared Cook, with Emmanuel Sanders. I think if the Eagles can hold Kamara to a reasonable number, under 100 yards from scrimmage, they have a chance to be in this game in the fourth quarter.
That is a list of weapons when you go down the list. A big challenge for this Eagles defense. Thanks, Dave. We'll catch up with you later.
All right, guys. See you after the game.
All right, friend, your key to the game isn't sponsored yet. Maybe we could work on that. But for the Eagles to get the win today, what is it?
Well, I think the big thing, look, we talked about that matchup, the Eagles offense against the Saints defense. And one thing that they do at a really high level is run different stunts and games with their defensive front. And so really when you just look at that defense, just from an individual standpoint, you look at Cam Jordan and you look at Trey Hendrickson. Those guys have 40 pressures each. David Onyemata, Sheldon Rankin's back from injury. Even the young guy, a former first-round pick in Marcus Davenport. One-on-one, these guys are loads to handle. But then you factor in all the different stunts, whether you see these, end tackle stunts with guys pinning down, guys looping around. These are typically handled by the offensive line. A couple guys handle this. They also run these three-man stunts where you've got defensive linemen coming from the opposite side of the formation. Those are tough to handle as well. Requires a lot of communication, right? But New Orleans, one thing they do a lot, they incorporate their linebackers into their pressure scheme. So Demario Davis, Malcolm Jenkins, those guys will come up, crowd the line of scrimmage. That brings your running backs more into the equation with pass protection. So you look at Miles Sanders here, he might have to step outside and block Davis. He might have to step inside and block Davis. But one of the things they do very well, Amy, is they use their running backs on these stunts. So you see the linebacker come down to pin the offensive lineman, and now a D tackle loops back around on the outside. Somebody's got to be there to pick him up. This requires communication between your running backs and your offensive line. You typically don't see that, right? Especially when you talk about the lack of continuity along the Eagles offensive line, guys going in and out. The communication's already tough between those guys, but now you have to factor in Miles Sanders and Boston Scott and Jordan Howard communicating with those new guys that are seeing the new time together. It's a big task, and so that's something for sure that the Eagles will have to account for, especially on third down in this game.
Well, and look, we've talked a lot about this Saints defense and how there's not a lot that they don't do well, but one thing they don't have a ton of experience at this season is facing a mobile quarterback. The most mobile quarterback they faced this season, if I could even say this, is Teddy Bridgewater, and in that game he rushed for about 10 yards. So they haven't really been challenged in this way, and that's not going to be the case this week against Jalen Hurts. And so the Eagles need to keep this Saints defense honest by utilizing the read option. It's something that Miles Sanders talked about earlier this week, how excited he is to be doing this with Jalen Hurts, how electric Miles is with his legs, how electric Jalen is with his legs. They can force the Saints defense into some tough decisions there, force them to commit one way and possibly be going the other way. So it is the #1 defense in the NFL. Not a lot of weaknesses there, but if you can force them into some tough decisions, you may see some of those plays break open. All right, it's time to head back to Lincoln Financial Field to check in with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick for their players to watch in today's matchup.
Amy, it is a beautiful afternoon here at Lincoln Financial Field. Mike Quick, who is your Eagle to watch?
So, Amy, is this a day that we both can have the same guy? Because I can't imagine anyone being more important to watch than Jalen Hurts in his first start in the National Football League. So, #2 of the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he's going to be my guy. I'm going to watch him every moment that he's on the field.
Okay, just to add to what you were saying, my guy to watch is number 26, Miles Sanders, because I think the two of them will be something to contend with as far as the RPO, the run-pass option. I think the mobility of Hurts could spring Miles Sanders. Okay, Amy, back to you.
I swear we did not plan to say the same kind of thing, but I always feel really smart when guys like that agree with me. This week, the Eagles surprised safety Rodney McLeod when Jeffrey Lurie told him he is the team's 2020 nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year, an award that recognizes outstanding community service off the field and excellence on it. Anyone who's paying attention knows that Rodney is well deserving of this honor and should not be surprised how much it meant to him. He shares more in this one-on-one interview with Mike Quick, presented by LEHOCKY.
Rodney, thanks for joining us. First of all, congratulations on your nominee for Walter Payton Man of the Year. I saw a video. Tell me about the video, the official announcement from Jeffrey Lurie where you were pranked.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise. I thought I was doing something for voter registration, and next thing you know, Mr. Lori pops up, and everything is done virtually now. So I'm thinking maybe he's in another room doing an interview. Something happened, the cameraman switched over to the wrong room, and then next thing you know, he's telling me I'm the nominee for the team, and I was excited to get the news. I was very surprised. It was a good feeling, for the team to select me and represent the team the right way, and because of my work that I've done throughout my time here in Philadelphia. So it was rewarding, and I'm thankful.
Let's talk about a little bit of your work in Philadelphia. Game Changers. That's an initiative that's probably going to touch 10,000 youth or more in the Philadelphia area. What was your inspiration there, and what's the end game for Game Changers?
Yeah, I think when you think of Game Changers, you think of someone who's a difference maker. And that's who we're trying to identify, those individuals, particularly students who want to see change within their community, or maybe they just have an idea. And we're there to now help them manifest that idea and bring it to life. We've have 3 initiatives a part of Game Changers. There's the 60 Seconds of Change videos where students are able to express where they want to see change in their community, whether it's gun violence, whether it's education equality, racism, police reform, mental health. We're aiming to touch a lot of kids in the Philadelphia region, and hopefully this just becomes kind of the model, and we can take this across the nation.
Good stuff, man. I guess we got to talk a little bit of football. So, and the conversation, or the topic du jour, quarterback Jalen Hurts. So he's prepared the defense each and every week for the opposing quarterback and that offense. From that, what have you seen from him, and what can we expect?
Yeah, I think from Jalen, you see a guy who has improved every single week, who takes advantage of his opportunities, whether it's on scout or whether it's versus some of the competitive periods that he gets a chance to get behind center and go against the ones. And so I've continued to see growth, and that's what you want to see. I see a competitor. I see a guy who's humble enough to listen to others, who loves the game, and you saw that on display last week as he came in, man. He's a very passionate guy. Man, a few words, but the game means a lot to him. And I'm excited for him to get his opportunity this upcoming week. I think me on the defensive side, we have to do our part to help him out as much as possible. It won't be easy for him, but I know he's up for the challenge, and he'll be well prepared come Sunday.
Not going to be easy for the defense either. You're facing a team that's won 9 straight. They're in the top 5 in scoring. They're averaging almost 29 points per game. How do you slow down the train that's moving that fast?
For a team like New Orleans, man, it all starts with the run. Taysom Hill is their quarterback. They have Kamara, they have Murray. So I think they have a lot of tells, though. That will be very key for us, is understanding who's in the game and what they like to do with those players when they're in them. And then just make them one-dimensional and give ourselves a good chance. I think we talk about that all the time, but even more so on Sunday, it's going to start up front. We're going to have to tackle well, and then when we get our opportunities, when they pass the ball, we have to make them count.
So McLeod's role has grown in his time here, and while he's always been a leader on this team, this year it seems even more like he's taken ownership of leading that secondary. Fran, this preseason there were a lot of questions about who would fill that void left behind by Malcolm Jenkins, interestingly enough, last year's nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. How have you seen Rodney's evolution as a leader to where he is now?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, obviously, not being in the building for it, but I think ultimately you look at Rodney, he's one of the most well-respected players on this team, offense or defense. I think ultimately you look at just the way that he has kind of built that equity in that locker room over the course of his career here in Philadelphia. Not a shock to see that he has been the guy that's been really the spokesperson of that unit so far here in 2020.
Yeah, no surprise there. Very well deserved. Congratulations again to Rodney. And I encourage everyone to take a look at the work he's doing off the field, see if there's a place for you to be involved or even donate. All right, everyone, there is still a little bit of time to be in the stands at Lincoln Financial Field this season with an Eagles fan cutout. Fan cutouts printed by Rico are only $35, and orders of 4 or more receive a $5 discount per cutout. Order today at philadelphiaeagles.com/cutouts. We are going to take a quick break. On the other side, we will share our final thoughts before kickoff. Philadelphia Eagles and Axalta Coating Systems have built a roster of all-pro teachers. Go to philadelphiaeagles.com/Axalta All-Pro Teachers to view this year's list of outstanding recipients. And that brings us to 15 minutes before kickoff. It's week 14, so hopefully people should know what that means. But if they don't, Fran?
Yeah, we've got 15 minutes left till kickoff, which means you at home have 15 minutes to save 15% or more on your car insurance by switching to GEICO.
And 15 minutes in week 14 means I've also tried to come up with 14 clever ways to bring this up. All right, let's wrap this thing up. As always, we'll be right back here as soon as the game is over on the postgame show presented by Rico for instant reaction and analysis with Fran, myself, Ike Reese, and Dave Spadero will join in. And as always, we will hear from coach and players live. Until then, it is an NFC clash and a rookie set to make his debut as Jalen Hurts and the Eagles take on the Saints in South Philadelphia. Enjoy the game, everybody. We will see you on the other side.